Hey, hey, hey! What is up, mortals? It is I, the Spirit of Ice, here with a new video for you today. Welcome to part 5 of What If Deku Was a Green Lantern? I just wanted to greet you guys by saying sit back and relax. You're in for a treat. So we begin. A 50-meter dash, long jumping, side-to-side jumping, grip strength, the ball throw, etc. Each of the events in this impromptu fitness test were all the things you'd expect in middle and high school, but with the added challenge of utilizing one's quirk, which was a problem for someone who didn't technically have one. While the Green Lantern ring could make anything Izuku could imagine, he had yet to grasp the concept of anything. Or maybe it would be better to say he had grasped it a little too literally. Regardless of his technical understanding of it, the issue with Izuku Midoriya was that he refused to be creative with his powers. Even when he was told by the Ion entity, even though the entity in question certainly didn't help the issue with his passive nature, that he was overthinking the whole thing, there were simply too many options. Even if he narrowed it down to hero-specific construct, there were far too many heroes to choose from. So, he did the only thing he could think of when he was stuck. He asked for help. Mr. Yorozu? He timidly asked in between tests as he approached the black-haired girl that was his new classmate. Oh, you're Midoriya, right? Yayorozu asked as she turned around to face the boy. Yes, I was wondering if you could give me some pointers with my quirk. Yours seems very similar to mine, but I haven't really used it for long and I'm not very good with it, he admitted, looking away from her in shame. Oh, did you not have many opportunities to practice with it? She asked before shaking her head. I'm sorry, that was rude of me. In any case, I'd be happy to advise you in using it if you need. Were you thinking of creating anything in particular? Izuku shook his head. Well, I don't really have any specific ideas. I was just hoping to find some things to make for things like the long jump, grip test, and the side-to-side jumps. Since a penalty for being last is expulsion, I want to make sure that I do well on these tests, that I probably can't physically excel at. Well, that's a natural conclusion to draw. But I feel I should point out that the expulsion threat is most likely a lie to make sure that we all do our best. That actually makes a lot of sense. But even still, I want to make sure I can rank as high as possible. So, do you have any pointers? He inquired. Yayorozu nodded. I can't say for sure that my advice will help you, but from what I can gather, you can make anything you can imagine, right? What are the requirements? Izuku looked down at his ring. Well, my quirk works by storing up a type of green energy that I can turn into anything I imagine, but I can't manifest it without this ring. I didn't actually get it until about a year ago, so I haven't had anywhere near the time everyone else has to practice their quirks, he explained. A few meters away from them, Bakugo scoffed silently. Not half bad for a lie, Deku. Maybe you're not quite as useless as I thought, after all. If we get to fight each other, you better not disappoint me. I sure as hell won't hold back like I did in our spars. Don't expect such an easy victory now that I know what you can do, he thought. In contrast, Yayorozu looked a bit startled. You've only been using your quirk for a year and you've already discovered how it works? Honestly, I don't think you even need my help. I'd just say to think outside of the box, like with the ball throw, and you'll do pretty well. I see, Midoriya muttered. Truthfully, he'd been hoping to learn how she decided to make a scooter for the 50-meter dash. What was her thought process on that? For Midoriya, he simply thought of Ingenium, who he naturally learned to associate with speed. Since he didn't know the purpose of the ball throw, he'd made a plane as a basic flying mechanism to test the limits of the exercise. But that was also due to the fact that there wasn't really a hero that was defined by their flight powers. Ingenium used his speed to save people. All Might used his strength to beat opponents quickly. Ryukyu could fly, but she was also really big, so imitating her wouldn't exactly be useful. Wait, why was he still imitating heroes in a non-combative exercise? Ion had said that he should narrow it down to heroic-based constructs when he was sparring with Bakugo, but this was designed to showcase the limits of their powers. So why was he using a mental block that was intentionally designed to narrow down his choices?
Wait, you're right. Thanks a lot, Yaoyorozu.
Izuku exclaimed as his expression suddenly brightened up. The classmate in question took a step back in surprise.
Oh, you're welcome, Midoriya.
Midoriya, you're up, Aizawa called out, interrupting the girl before she could finish.
All right,
Deku said to no one as he made his way over to the sandbox for the standing long jump. In his mind, he had the perfect idea to get past the sandbox.
If my own body doesn't have a way to get far enough, then I just need to add a body part that can. Ready, go!
The announcer called out, signaling the start of Izuku's portion. As Izuku jumped, he remembered someone from his childhood, someone that was mean to him along with Kachan.
Who would have thought that you would actually help me, Tsubasa?
As this thought came into his head, a pair of green draconic wings suddenly appeared, seemingly attached to his uniform. With a mental command, the wings began flapping, carrying Izuku farther than a single jump should have. With the wings propelling him forward, he easily cleared the sandbox.
Yes!
He exclaimed silently, not wanting to seem like he was gloating. The rest of the tests were fairly straightforward, in the sense that there was nothing he could really think of when doing them. The sit-up and grip strength test, for example, didn't really present any opportunities for his constructs, and the long-distance run was just a repeat of the 50-meter dash. He thought about trying to imitate the quirk of a classmate called Minetta for the side-to-side jumps, but he really had no idea if it would even work, and it looked like he would get whiplash if he tried it, so he just did it normally. While he wasn't the most physically fit, he figured that he did fine for a boy that exercised occasionally, although he did make a mental note to ask that Kirishima guy for some sort of workout regime. At the end of the period, Aizawa revealed their scores. "It'd be too tedious to tell you one at a time, so I'll just show you now," was his excuse. Pressing a button on his pad, it displayed the class rankings in big letters. As expected, Yaoyorozu was in first place, with Shoto Todoroki in second, Bakugo in third, and Midoriya in fourth. Izuku was ecstatic. He had done so well, and best of all, he wasn't going to be
No!
A shrill voice screamed, scaring the students. As they all turned around, they saw that it came from Minetta, the one who had placed last, bawling on the ground. It would have been a pathetic sight if they didn't know what was coming next. Aizawa looked up from the side at the rest of the students, who slowly turned to him with mild fear and anxiety in their eyes, expecting an immediate expulsion. Instead, their teacher smiled at them. Oh, I was lying before. I'm not going to expel anyone yet, he told them.
What?
And they all screamed in unison, minus one.
Say what?
Minetta screeched, causing a girl with ear jacks hanging from her ears, and a boy whose face looked like a mountain to cover their ears. It was a rational deception to ensure you all did your best on the tests. You can all pick up your syllabi when you get back to class. After that, you're done for the day, he said before turning and walking off. As Aizawa made his way back, he was stopped by a looming presence. He sighed, knowing that this was probably going to be annoying. "What do you want, All Might?" he grumbled.
"Well, wasn't that a bit cruel to your students? I mean, an expulsion threat on the first day. I heard that you actually did expel your class last year, though you also let them come back in later. Why the sudden change of heart?" Toshinori inquired.
Aizawa stopped for a moment and looked at him before responding. "None of them have zero potential, so I'm fine with letting them all stay for a while longer. As long as they all continue to stay above the 0 mark, they'll stay in my class."
"Aww,"
All Might said, wiping his eyes.
"You're just a big old softy, aren't you?"
Ignoring Aizawa's grumble, he proceeded to ask a question.
"Say, completely out of the blue here, but what did you think about that Midoriya kid?"
Huh? Aizawa looked confused. Then his expression shifted to something more akin to disappointment. "Don't tell me you're biased towards him because of the entrance exam."
"Well, no, it's just,
Yagi trained off, as if unsure how to bring up the subject.
"Oh, that quirk of his. It reminds me of those villains from a year ago. The ones that just disappeared shortly after their rampage. Oh, Aizawa said. Now that you mention it, I overheard him talking to one of the recommendation students, Yaoyorozu, about how his quirk came in about a year ago, and how he needed that ring to use it. I don't read files beforehand to make sure I don't have any biases, otherwise I would have noticed the connection. You think they're related somehow? No, that's not what I was saying, per se. They're aliens, All Might stammered out. Aizawa blinked, as if unsure of his senses. What did you just say? I mean... You know what? Screw it. It would be just easier if I introduce you to young Mirio. The third year? What does he have to do with... Look, he's the reason I'm not dying anymore. I'm sure you noticed how I've been more active the past year, and, well, he'll explain it later. Just right now, we need to find a reason for him and Midoriya to meet, okay? It's of vital importance to the universe, he stammered out. Shota's eyes narrowed. I don't have the slightest clue of what you're talking about, he sighed. But you seem pretty upset about this, so I'll meet up with Togeda later and find out what's going on. All Might's eyes beamed with gratitude. That's great! I'll ask Nezu to make the arrangements.
This video is sponsored by ExpressVPN. ExpressVPN allows you to change your IP address, making it harder to track and securing your privacy. In addition to providing safe passage through the web, you can also expand the reach of your favorite streaming services like Disney+. If you're from the United States, you probably won't be able to watch any of the MCU or Sony Spider-Man movies. But by switching your location to Japan, you can access them whenever you want. Check out the link in the description to get 3 extra months when you purchase the 12-month subscription plan that costs $99.99 a year. This deal is for a limited time. Thanks to ExpressVPN for sponsoring this video.
That lying piece of...
But Minetta was cut off by Midoriya.
Look, I get that you're upset, but can't you see his reasoning? He said it himself. Unpredictable things happen all the time. As heroes, it's our job to step up and handle things like villains or natural disasters. And Mr. Aizawa is just making sure we know to expect the unexpected and to give it our best effort. Besides, you're not actually getting expelled or anything. So, just think of this as a transitional period to the hero system that we'll all have to deal with when we become pros.
Minetta looked stunned.
Well, I guess you have a point there, Midoriya,
he muttered before walking off.
Huh?
Deku was flabbergasted by his response. How did he know my name?
You performed the highest on the entrance exam and have an extraordinarily powerful quirk. Not to mention the speech you just gave him. Of course he would remember your name. Same as you remembered Momo's name by remembering how similar your powers were, despite only hearing her name once.
For the first time all day, Ion spoke up, almost causing Izuku to flinch before he caught himself and realized how weird it would look.
Ion, don't sneak up on me like that,
Deku thought, as he began making his way back to the classroom along with the other students.
Almost revealed your existence to my whole class. Or, at least, they would have thought that I was crazy. But in any case, why'd you wait until now to say anything? Izuku, I have no need to comment on every aspect of your waking life. So long as we are supplying each other with our own power, and you are following the task that Ganthet has entrusted to you, then there is little reason for us to commune. I, Adara, and Parallax are the least talkative out of the entities. Willpower, in particular, is the most stable and thus the least intrusive. Would you prefer that I act like Ophidian, commanding you to do every little thing I desire, or would you rather I act like the Butcher and whisper memories in your ear to persuade you to act out? I only spoke now because you were genuinely confused by Minoru's response. But since I am speaking right now, I suppose I should congratulate you on your improvement. You've learned how to make constructs that differ depending on the situation. A giant step towards learning how to master the powers of the Green Lantern. Thank you,
Izuku muttered. In truth, he was a bit skeptical of the explanation that Ion was non-intrusive, as he had been calling people by their first names, even Yaoyorozu and Minetta, who Midoriya had just met. But Izuku knew that these entities were connected to all life in the universe, so he understood that there must be some sort of link for them all. And he also felt it was rude to harbor doubt for Aion, the one who gave him the power to achieve his dream. He'd never seen Ganthet after the day they first met, so Aion had been the one to explain everything about the Green Lanterns, the Guardians, the entities, and how Sinestro and the Red Lantern Corps had destroyed the Green and Blue Lanterns. Though he felt no personal attachment to any of them, he still refused to let their deaths be in vain, which reminded him,
Actually, have you discovered what happened to Adara? You said she was with you, right? And what about Atrocitus and Lorfleece? I've only heard that they were attacking for a few days after you came to me. Then they disappeared,
Izuku said as he slipped into the bathroom before picking up his syllabus.
I don't have the slightest clue where they went,
Aion spoke aloud since they were in private.
All I know is that Adara was talking about someone named Mirio, but I can't filter him out from the rest of the humans. I can, however, sense Adara is close to here. As for Larfleeze and Atrocitus, I don't know where they went off to. I can only assume that Atrocitus and Dexter sought out someone with a great sense of rage and vengeance. I don't know who that would be. Well, that's better than nothing. At least we know who the host is, and I think I heard of a UA student by the name of Mirio. But that would mean that he's an upperclassman, so I don't know how we'll meet him. On another note, is there anyone else who might make a good Green Lantern? We've already ruled out Bakugo, and while I don't want to be so negative, Minetta seemed pretty despondent when he thought he was getting expelled. There is someone who has a surplus of willpower, but I'd like for you to inspect him first. You'll need to make sure he's not amoral and will be a good fit for the Corps.
Izuku nodded.
Right. I should probably get back to class now anyway.
As Izuku got back into his classroom, he was greeted by a few familiar faces.
Midoriya!
Ida yelled as he ambushed his classmate.
Splendid performance on the physical exams. Yet again, you proved yourself superior to me.
Izuku began sweating.
You really shouldn't worry about it. You were just below me in terms of rank anyway.
Well, he's totally right, Deku, Uraraka chimed in, still calling him by the wrong name. Izuku couldn't even correct her before she continued.
I mean, you scored within the top 5, and those wings were so cool. Did you just learn that or something? I mean, I got the idea from my talk with Yaoyorozu before the long jump. But it's not like it's such a big...
Wait, you really did just learn that? How could someone be so cool?
Yet again, someone else cut into the conversation. This time it was Minetta, who was looking at Izuku with stars in his eyes. Izuku just decided to go along with it in hopes of getting to go home. He wasn't even concerned about talking with the potential recruit anymore. Not that he knew how to make a ring in the first place, and was now just looking for any way to get out of the spotlight.
Yeah, I guess it was pretty cool.
Fortunately, he was able to leave soon after that, though not without 3 new friends walking to the station with him. The next day, everyone was eagerly waiting in their seats for the start of class. The reason for this was simple. Today was the first day of Heroics 101, and rumor had it that the class was to be taught by All Might himself. Sure enough, the man in question burst through the door, exclaiming that he was coming through the door like a normal person? If the students weren't awestruck by his presence, they might have commented on how unnormal that was.
Now then, let's start our first lesson of the year,
he bellowed, holding up a small board that had the phrase Battle Trial on it.
Meet me in Battlefield A for our first training session.
All Might turned to leave, but before he did, he turned around one more time.
Oh, and before I forget,
he said in a sing-songy voice before pulling out a remote from his drawer and pressing a button, revealing a secret compartment that housed briefcases with the class numbers on them.
You'll find your hero costumes in these cases, each one numbered after your own class number. See you in 10.
It had actually taken 15 minutes, But they'd all gotten changed and made their way to the same foe city from the entrance exams. When All Might saw them, he could only say one thing.
You all look fantastic! They say the look of a hero is the most important factor when making a public image, and you've all got it down.
Indeed, they all looked quite amazing, sporting a variety of costumes that complemented them, whether it be making them look intimidating like Bakugo or a bird-headed boy, or promoting their femininity, as was the case with Uraraka and especially Yaoyorozu. Izuku was glad he'd gotten outside first and could see them approaching. That way, he wasn't caught off guard when they saw him. Speaking of his quick changing...
I say, Midoriya, you sure can change quickly. And that costume, it looks perfect on you. Like a soldier getting ready to fight an enemy of the nation,
Ida said, his voice slightly distorted by his helmet.
Well, I was just excited to start combat training,
he lied. While he was excited to start lessons with All Might, the real secret behind his quick changing was that he simply had the ring create the standard lantern uniform over his normal clothes, a feature he had used a few times before at his house. He'd simply hid in the back of the locker room with his body covered by the open doors and quietly materialized the uniform before heading out. In fact, he hadn't even had a briefcase back in the classroom. They stopped at 19. He just created an exact replica that he carried to the locker room, and nobody noticed that it was completely green. Well, there were two blondes that had an idea as to what he did, but they certainly weren't saying anything. All Might coughed into his fist.
For today's exercise, we'll be conducting a little hostage situation. Will we get expelled if we fail? Ida interjected.
Can we kill the other team?
Bakugo snarled.
Doesn't this cape look fantastic on moi?
Look, I'm getting to it,
All Might said loudly before pulling out a book from his pocket and skimming it.
Now then, to answer your questions, you won't be getting expelled, killing is banned, and the cape does look great. For this exercise, you'll be divided into heroes and villains. The villains will have 10 minutes to hide a bomb in one of the buildings, and the heroes will be tasked with retrieving it within the time limit. The heroes can also win by capturing the villains with a distributed capture tape, and the villains win by outlasting the heroes. You'll also be drawing lots and fighting in teams of 2. Sir, Ida raised his hand, shouldn't we be able to pick our own partners? What use does a random draw serve?
Izuku was the one who answered.
Think about it. Heroes usually have to team up with other pros they don't know very well. By emulating this in a school setting, we'll learn how to work with unknown quirks in the future.
Ida nodded.
I see. Couldn't have said it better myself, young Midoriya. Now then, let's draw some teams.
As everyone drew their letters, the teams were decided, and Izuku was, by a stroke of luck, paired with Uraraka for the test. As for his opponents, well, that wasn't as lucky. If he honored Bakugo's wish of fighting him, then he wouldn't be able to evaluate his candidate. If he tried fighting the candidate to evaluate them, then he would essentially be declaring Bakugo as superior to himself, which he didn't want to do without a fight first. Either way, he needed to make up his mind, because he and his partner were going up against Bakugo and Kirishima before anyone else. Thank you all for indulging yourself in this information thus far. I hope you enjoyed it. Now, there are a few things that I'd like to go over before the video ends. Firstly, I'd like to thank our patrons, BD Flames, Ethan Davis, Terry Chills, Shifter Meals, Adam Zagel, Zill, XAV Beat 03, and Joshua Phelps. Secondly, I'd like to thank all our YouTube members, Toy Acosta, Rob the King, Sith Lord 906, CF2364 and Knuckles, Rimuru Tempest, Angel Juarez, Donald C. Stewart, Bryant Greer, and Demonetized Fox. Thirdly, if you're in the mood for some great storytelling, We the Celestials has you covered. We the Celestials, My Hero Academia, and Naruto What If channels retell the stories of their namesake anime with a twist. Check it out if you're interested. Fourthly, on behalf of We the Celestials, I'd like to thank everyone involved in today's excellent content production. Their details can be found in the description below. Lastly, if you're interested in what we do here at We the Celestials, I'd like to extend an invitation to join the team. The only caveat is that we only accept members of 16 years or older to join our crew. You can sign up for whichever category fulfills your interest by joining the recruitment Discord using the link in the description below. We're always looking for members to join us. Well, that's it from us for today's video. Thank you all so much for watching. Once again, I've been the Spirit of Ice telling all of you to have a great day.